All right, we are good to go. So welcome everyone to Creating Botanical Molds with Caitlin right here live. You can always use the chat box for your questions. Oh, make sure and write this down because you're going to want some classes that we have after you see possibilities. At CraftCast, you can get 20% off with the coupon code MOLDS20. We always try to give someone a discount code after the class to enjoy something. You're going to see why in a moment. Here also is another link that you want, which is the link to a kit. I'm working with Rhonda over at Cool Tools, and we're putting together kits for each class so that you can sort of have one link shopping, make it a little easier, and actually have in there basically what Caitlin worked with or any of our teachers worked with. And so you can check that out. You can then add things to it if you want to get some clay, metal clay, whatever. The things that obviously change in price are the clay, depending on the cost of silver. So check that out. And then this was how today's freebie got started from the class that Caitlin taught right there, which is her garden pendant out of metal clay. You can use your coupon code to get the full class if you want to as well. I highly recommend it. Everyone loves it, and you'll get to make fabulous, we're calling them garden pendants, sort of perfect for now. How to set the stones, how to add everything together. And right there in the middle of that particular pendant is what we are talking about today. So, Caitlin, why don't you explain to everyone now what we're up to?
Sure, thank you. So this pendant was inspired in two parts. One is that as I make other pieces out of silver clay, which is my primary medium, I usually have an accumulation of extra pieces that I didn't use. And so I had a bowl on my desk with the mushrooms, that bottom texture piece. And one day I said, I'm in the mood to do a what can I make with my little bits, which is one of my favorite ways to make jewelry. And
Mm-hmm.
the second event that inspired this piece is I found, literally was out walking and stumbled upon that little piece, a little piece of cedar. And I didn't even see the tree that it had come from. At the moment, I wasn't sure what it was, but anything that has really minute details like this catches my eye. And I took it home. And I really like the sense of discovery of finding something on the ground. And I also, although I'm not above picking little things, I love the idea of picking up and then using something that's already been separated from the plant it's from. It's like giving new continuing life to something that otherwise would just, decompose or just return to the earth. So that piece in the middle I brought home, and I used my two-part silicone mold making material, which we're about to do, to make a mold of it. The mold that I'm going to show you as we go through the process is the mold that I made from that piece of cedar that day. And of course, the benefit of molding something like this is that you are capturing its likeness to make again and again before it does, disintegrate. And so there's all
Oh,
kinds of
yeah,
magic.
it's beautiful. And this is where Caitlin and I had talked about that we wanted to play up that there's so many things to mold. Like if you're thinking, oh, I don't know, I want to look and find a perfect flower. That was just the smallest little piece, and look how beautiful that is. So you'll start looking at things in a close-up magnifying way on the ground or a little bit on a tree, and the little bit of something can make a stunning mold and then a beautiful final piece. That's what's also really cool. Like the smallest things that you think are weeds or whatever can be just like breathtakingly stunning when done. And that's why it becomes a little bit of an addiction. So I know you feel the same way, right, Caitlin? You're a mold person.
Okay.
All right, so let's start here and take a look at what is the process once you find a little goodie that you want to make a mold of. So there we go.
So here we are. This is the piece of cedar molded into these two-part silicone mold material. This silicone material starts as two parts. It's mixed together very quickly, and then the piece is placed in, the mold sets, and then it's good to go. So we're going to talk about that in detail. I went outside to pick some things that were available outside of my house. So this is a pachysandra leaf. These are maple seeds from last year. And this is a little piece of juniper. So this is as close as I could find to that cedar, very similar. It has the branching and the details.
And you can see that little detail. It's beautiful.
Yeah. This is a tough card, also from Cool Tools. That's my favorite work surface, and the mold material will not stick to it. This is the Mega Mold from Cool Tools. I really like this particular brand of silicone mold material because it sets up a little more slowly than some, which is great for beginning. And it's also great if you're going to be putting multiple plants into your mold.
Mm.
It's very soft. And the goal here is with clean hands to pull out equal sizes of the material of each color.
And you don't weigh it. You're going just by, okay, that ball, they look about right, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's important to be pretty close, but it's not important to weigh them close. Unless you want to. If you feel like you're second guessing yourself on that, you can weigh
Right,
them.
right, right, right.
And another tool that I'll be using is my clear acrylic board. And I want to be set because once I start mixing this, I need to be fully ready. So this is in real time. I use my fingers first, and then once it's pretty incorporated, I use my palms like this because I feel like it gives me the most control to do this really quickly. And I will mix until there's no marbling left. I don't want to see either of the original colors, one solid color, and then it's ready. I
Easy.
will, yeah, I will roll it into a ball so that I have a crack-free and air bubble-free shape to start with. The hardening time on this one is approximately 5 minutes, but that's to complete set. So I want to get this plant in within the first minute and a half. So I'm shaping this to be the approximate shape and size as the leaf, which is the first piece I'll be setting. And it's pretty sensitive. So I go with that pat, 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 and then gentle circular rub motion to keep my fingerprints out of it. I mean,
Hmm.
they will be there and then I take them back out. And then I will place this by pressing first in the middle and then out to the edges in the effort to reduce air trapped underneath as much as possible. Some of that is sometimes inevitable. I have chosen to put in the side that has the most detail. So you can look at your specimen. Often it's the backside because that's where the leaves have the most prominent veining. And once it's in full contact, I use my acrylic press to flatten.
That's a genius tip, Caitlin.
You can see what's happening underneath.
Yeah, that's great.
And then go slowly here as I am, and it should release just like that. And then I leave it. Again, the curing time on this is officially 5 minutes, but I find for this one, the Mega Mold from Cool Tools, the blue, that it is actually often longer than that. And in that case, one way to check is from the bottom, I'll peel this off first so I can see, is it deforming as I begin to remove it? You can poke a fingernail in there if you're curious on the edge. You really don't want to take out your object until it's fully cured. And here you can see by the way it's moving that it's set.
Hmm.
There will always be some give, but it is set. And then I can gently peel out my object.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
That's a nice and sort of shallow for doing metal clay too.
Yes, that's a good point. The more your object protrudes, the more you have to think about weight and balance of your final design. So I'm going to repeat the process. The reason I love doing maple seeds is, of course, there's so much detail. It's a very flat piece, but in this case, I want to be sure that I have made my mold large enough. It's a pretty large piece. And you also want to make sure that your little pancake is deep enough that when you
Hmm.
press, you're not hitting bottom. You don't want to be going all the way to your desk. It can become too thin too quickly. So I do actually recommend using more material than you think you need if you're in doubt about exactly how much you need.
Now, I love the idea of using the clear and making it flat like that. Would it be okay not to, or you get a better impression this way?
That's a great question. It's not necessary. It's really not. I like doing this because I can be sure
I'm going to
that
hold it right there for a sec. Oops, let me hold it on a better place. Go ahead. You can be sure.
the item is fully in. Just because I have an even press, I can visualize what's happening in the mold, if that makes sense. If the top
Hmm.
is flat, then I know how deeply the item is pressed into the mold. And
Hmm.
also, if you want to have, if you're filling this with silver clay and you want to have a rim of any kind around your object, meaning you're not going to be cutting your object out and isolating it as a charm, but you want to have maybe your your item set in a surround, then what the surface of the mold looks like is going to affect what the surrounding silver clay looks like. So
Right.
if you want it to be more organic, you could press down with something else, including your hand, the palm of your hand. Um, it depends on your next steps.
So, in other words, if you were going to fill this with metal clay, do you want it to be the pendant the size of the whole blue molding material? So it's just an impression plus extra framing around? Or are you doing it and then making it just be a charm somehow and finishing off your edges?
Exactly. Or do you want
Okay.
the option to do both? Yeah.
Right. Right. The option to do both. And who had a good question? Robin Beth. Would that pressing down what you just did with the plexi handle any undercutting issues? She was asking if you worry about undercuts.
That's a good question, and that's a little bit more complex than what we're talking about at the moment.
Okay.
I often will make very targeted molds where, um, let me back up. The first time you mold a material, excuse me, the first time you mold an object, sometimes it's hard to know what steps you need to take in terms of undercuts or high-low on one side or the other. So sometimes I do this in my own practice. I'll just mold the piece and then fill it with clay, and then I'll see. You learn immediately. The first time you fill it with silver clay, you'll see, oh, I need to trim this, or it's too high over here.
Okay.
And if you are going to be using that mold to make many pieces, everything you have to trim off becomes more work. And
Right.
so you would maybe go back and make a mold that is more specific to the object, more curated to exactly what you want to do, so that you aren't trimming and then dealing with scrap and time every time. But that's a little more complex than what
Got
we're
it.
doing right here.
Okay. And also, Wendy, good observation. She mentioned that when you took the clear plexi off the snake roller, it looked like it lifted slightly. Did that make a difference or no?
What I find is another great question, and you will want to watch as you do this. Different silicone mold materials will handle this differently. You want to see if it's a consistent pull. I find that it's a consistent finish and it doesn't matter. If it, but that also requires you to do a consistent pull when you pull off. So you don't want to lift and then rotate and then pull this direction. You just want that consistent lift. And I find that it just peels and falls off and it
Okay.
doesn't affect the mold. If this is something that you feel like you need a little help doing, you can put a piece of plastic down and then the acrylic board will not stick to the mold material at all. And then you can just peel your plastic
Okay, that's a
off.
great idea.
However, for those of you who are sticklers about this kind of thing, even small plastic bags can leave detail on
Yeah, yeah.
the silicone, so then you've added that element.
Which leads us into our next question that Cindy said, can you use a texture mat for a background when molding the piece?
Yes, love it.
Okay. And does it have to be pre-oiled?
That would depend on your texture mat. The rubber-ish mats, I always use a release agent on. I'm going to say most textures should be oiled. Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and that's just because you're adding a lot of elements together and like elements together, like silicone to silicone-ish. So I would say yes to be safe.
Okay. And it what's great is to play around and make some of these. And do you ever use like silly putty to check your mold?
I don't use silly putty.
Okay.
I have used on occasion Sculpey Fimo
Okay, yeah, or Palmer clay. Yeah, yeah.
polymer clay. I find, and not everybody, wants to use their most expensive medium to do the checking. Completely understood. But what I find is that the different clays between silver and polymer are subtly different enough that when I have a new mold, I really want to know what the silver clay looks like in
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So I will often put it in and then carefully remove it immediately, which I would never recommend if you were making a piece, but just an immediate check to see, oh, there are air bubbles that are showing up in places I
Right,
don't
right,
like,
right.
or it's too big and I just couldn't visualize that. So
Right, right, right. All right. That sounds good. All right, Kim said, all right, I love how you all have lots of good questions here. Kim said, cool slip is a light layer on the plastic, helps it release after pressing the object in the putty. Oh, okay. I think everyone should also experiment with things too to see if it's working, in their heat, humidity, and all that type of thing too, wouldn't you think, Caitlin?
yeah, absolutely. I'm not totally sure I followed that, but I do want to speak to the cool slip. It's the
Okay,
best. It's the best in my experience as a
okay,
release agent. So when in doubt, use it. Always a light layer. I
okay.
find that the applicator is too heavy, so I often unscrew the lid and use the straw as just a little dab. And that's still a lot. You just
It's
really
just a
want a light
little
layer.
bit. Okay,
But the silicone molds are also oily, inherently so, and you usually don't have to use any kind of release between a mold and a nature item. I've never experienced that.
okay. And then, oh, Eileen wants to know, can you make a mold from a cured polymer clay piece? Sure.
Yes, absolutely. And cured is the key. It needs to be cured. But yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah, I think you can have no problem with that. And let's see, Robin Beth said, do you use any of the base metal clays for this?
Yeah, also. hmm for sure.
Uh, oh yeah, and I'm telling you, if you want to start playing around and not spend all your money on silver, or you want to try some other pieces, watch the concrete class that Patrick did. It's great
I do
and
want to
beautiful
add,
results.
sorry, Allison.
Go
I
ahead.
do want to add that and you most of you probably know this that you don't want to mix your metals. So
Okay,
these can be washed, but they tend to be tricky to, especially if you're using items
concrete
that
or
have a
something.
lot of detail. Yeah,
Okay,
it's going to snag
good
and
point.
hold. So I I would have a separate set of molds
Okay, great.
for your different
Thank you for that because
material.
wouldn't know what the problem was. So make a mold like a few times and know that this one is for polymer clay, this one's for silver clay, this one's for concrete.
Yes.
We like to keep the problems down. Dory wants to know, do you advocate letting silver clay dry in the mold?
Yes. Yes. And this is where we can veer off into nuance that I could talk about all day from my personal experience. So I'm going to summarize, like, we're going to branch here. So generally, yes, because if you take it out early, especially when it's more wet than not, that's
Mm-hmm.
when you are more likely to experience warping.
Mm-hmm.
And leaving it in the mold and letting it dry, whether it's on heat or not, is probably your best path towards replicating exactly what you want to replicate.
Okay.
However, if you're making if you've put in silver clay and you know that there's something that you want to do to that silver clay after it comes out of the mold, and you'll know this based on the project you're working on, but there are times when it needs to come out of the mold before it's fully dry. The piece of silver clay that comes out of the mold may have additions. You may want to trim, you may want to move, adjust. And of course, anything like that needs to be done when it's still moldable, still a little
Mm-hmm.
bit pliant and a little bit wet. So, I generally advocate that you let it dry to about 80%, which of course this is not a scientifically knowable thing, but it's from experience. If it's about 80% dry, it's likely to hold its form and let you work on it without breaking it. So that's something you pick up as you do this many times.
Also, someone wrote in here too, which is great. You could use them for resin as well, which is great fun as well.
Yes, for sure.
So there's all kinds of fun things to do. Can polymer clay be baked in the silicone mold?
I think so. This is a little out of my area.
I think Mags is on. She's an
Yeah.
expert that way.
Okay.
Mags, what do you think? Let us know, hon. Um, can you dry the mold on a hot plate? Yes, you can, Mags said. So there you go. Uh,
Yes, you can, and that's a good question also because as this particular brand of two-part silicone ages, which happens to our supplies sometimes, it sets up less quickly and it needs heat to cure fully. So if you've had this in your closet for a year and you bring it out and it will not set up, it's not you. It's the fact that you could put it on your clay dryer or your mug warmer or in a
mhm,
very low setting on the oven, and it needs that in order to go the last mile.
that makes sense. Joanna just said she's cured her polyclay in the silicone mold. And then, oh, that's an interesting question. You guys are good. Marina said, can the mold be used for melted wax?
I
I don't
think
know.
so. I mean, you guys are stretching me here, but I think that the most silicones are good up to, nobody quote me on this.
Okay.
Do your own research, but about 500 degrees. So I think that anything cooler than that wouldn't damage it.
That's worth just experimenting with too. And maybe do it outside so you don't have any fumes that might happen. But and I'm thinking if it's not too deep a mold, maybe you can use it. Oh, Kim just said you are correct. 500 degrees. You girls are good.
Thank you.
It might be a thin layer because you know how fast wax dries when you pour it if it's not too thick a mold. So that sounds great. Joanna said, oh, you can believe both soap and candle wax can be done in silicone molds. All right, so now we're busy not for the month of June, but also July and August
Mhm.
because now it's a lot. All right, let's keep going with the video. See
Okay.
now when it comes out. So there it is. Oh, and chocolate. Kim, you're adorable. Yeah, chocolate, sure. I think there's the right kind of silicone to use for that for
Yeah, check about food grade, but yeah,
food
it's the
grade.
same
Yeah,
concept. Yeah.
which now you got me thinking.
So here's another tip. If you have frilly edges like this and you know that your fingers are bigger and you might, slip a fingernail into your mold where you don't want it, you can use any fine pointed tools to do this kind of setting work for you. I like to use my agate burnisher because it's rounded and I'm not in danger of, poking a hole or making a little mark. And then time lapse ahead, it has set and it comes out.
I love it. I love that Robin Beth said this leads to way too many possibilities. I'm with you.
I know we're all gonna have candles and chocolate.
Right. I mean, come on, little chocolate flowers.
Mhm. So this last one I would say is the trickiest of the three I'm doing today because it's a little misleading how much, how big, and how deep you need your mold to be. So I'm going to do some checking. I'm going to eye it and then I'm going to check. And here I'm looking to see which side has the most detail, and that's the side that I'll put down into the mold. And this is an example of where the press is really helpful. If I press this deeply in with my fingers, I'm going to have
Mm-hmm.
fingerprints
Mm-hmm.
around the branches. If you were afraid that pulling the acrylic board up was going to distort, you also could leave it on there if it's centered over the mold.
Oh, there you go. Someone just asked.
So can you pause for a minute, Allison?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to clearly explain. If you're going to leave the press on, the press must be centered over the mold because it's heavy enough that if it's not centered, it'll do one of these
Ah,
and you won't
okay.
have an even mold.
Okay. Um, it looks like the mold material, Ron Beth said, came up around the sides and created undercuts.
It didn't actually in this case, but it could. I mean, this is something that you need to look at, right, for your own work. I um, I think if that's a concern of yours and a very valid one, that my best advice would be a sheet of plastic over
Okay.
it. I like to use plastic bags because they're firm enough that they hold they don't wrinkle, for example, as opposed to what's the plastic from the kitchen?
Oh,
Like
saran wrap or something?
yeah, like
Yeah.
that can be really
Okay.
fiddly. So yeah, I would put a non-textured plastic bag down, and then you won't be dealing with any pulling up or any undercut. Oh, wax paper, sure.
Okay, there you go.
Wax paper
Um,
will obscure your view a little bit if that matters, but the more you do this, the more you'll know what works for you.
and then wait, there was another good question here. Oh, Dory wanted to know. Sometimes she's done some molds and organic bits get stuck in the compound and can't get them out.
Can you elaborate on what kind? Just generally what kind gets stuck?
I wonder if it's like little dirt pieces that fall off or something. Um, yeah, wax paper, excellent idea. I'm sort of trying to get rid of those plastic bags at this point. Dory was using dry and not green organics. Oh, okay.
So okay, this is good. This is a good point. Um, it also probably matters about the mold material you're using. For example, the maple seeds that I molded were from last season. You could tell they weren't fresh. And then I brought them inside and they dried on my desk. So I'm going to say that they were maybe equivalent to what you're talking about. They didn't stick at all. And I don't have that difficulty with mega mold. However, they were totally flat.
Okay.
And the more that you have pieces that branch into the mold, the more complicated it can be. And if you're in doubt, a very thin layer, very, very thin layer of cool slip is
would do it.
almost always fine. Yeah. Like for example, some people make molds of textiles like lace or
Hmm. Hmm.
fabric.
Hmm.
Um, that can be a mess. You
Okay.
would have to put like I would almost soak that in an oil first.
First. Okay. Oh no, you're making us think of other cool things now, Caitlin. That's
Sorry.
not fair. So is Joanna. She should just she just wrote inspiration for Christmas cake decorations with molding chocolate. Why wait for
Yeah.
Christmas? Let's do a 4th of July one and have little fireworks or something.
Oh.
When he said for silver clay, it should come out, oh, without a worry about undercuts because the mold is flexible. There you go. That's a good point.
And another thing you can do, if you're worried about undercuts and also in general is if your molded piece or your mold is too deep, and you might consider it too deep because it's going to use too much clay and you don't, for cost reasons want to do that, or it's going to add too much weight to what you're about to make, or myriad other reasons, you don't have to fill your mold to the top.
Okay.
So if I see that it's become funky at a surface level, but I want those details down in, I can press the silver clay in, not bring it to the surface. Of course, the thinner it is, the more care I would have to use taking it out,
Right.
but
Right. Right. Right.
so many options, yeah.
Right. I love Robin Bessett cupcake toppers. It must be getting close to lunch time. We're thinking food. Um, and also, do those silicone molds dry out or get brittle?
Great question. They change, but I have 12, 13, 14-year-old molds that are still usable.
Okay.
So no, not really.
Okay. All right. Let's move ahead with our video. That one sure looks beautiful close up there. All the little details.
Yeah, I love how those turn out.
Yeah, that one is so pretty. I mean, they all are, but it's
And just to say, speaking of thin, that branch is so thin that I would probably want to mount that on something for durability,
okay.
whatever clay came out of there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those are all great. Um, fun, fun leaf charms and everything to have, I think. They're fun. So that's the full class. I highly recommend make sure you use your coupon code. Get Caitlin's full class. It's genius how she does all the little textures. That mold part is just the one little thing going up the middle there, but you will learn a tremendous amount. It's just really, really fun. So enjoy that. Go check that out. Any other questions? You can send us all your questions to support@craftcast.com. Let's see. Lisa said, I have a manufactured mold out of a branch. Oh, when I take it out, it almost always breaks when I remove it from the mold. Have you found a certain width that works the best to avoid this?
Width of what
Width of
part?
your piece that you're molding or width of how much mold material you're using, Lisa? I've done tons of them and I've not had break problems because it's so flexible.
I would say, without any more information about what you were doing specifically, that when things break, that it's on the way out of the mold, it's very often because they weren't fully dry or they weren't dry enough to be removed.
Okay. Okay, you guys, I love these questions. Here's why. You're welcome, Kim. Giselle, go get the course on Craftcast that Grona did, Grainne. Maybe Misty, you could put it in there. She taught us all how to do the full acorn, and it's genius. I made them. She does even 3D. She does both sides. So it's a more added process. But check out her class. She did a great job with that. And that's another little addiction. You're welcome. Let's see. The mushrooms are very squishy. Okay, those mushrooms are not made from a mold, Donna, and Caitlin shows you how to make them in her class. I said that right? You didn't. You made those all by hand, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's what I thought. So you'll see exactly how to do that. And I'm glad you enjoyed it, Anne. You've been wanting to do this for so long. Great. It's really, really fun. And it is a great way to add so much personal style and interesting things to your own pieces. I mean, look at that beautiful pendant that Caitlin did. It'll get you started on something really fun. So just molds 20, it's good for a week. And you can get those classes. Like I said, make sure to check out Caitlin's and check out what Patrick did with concrete as well. Uh, you'll be inspired. Oh, and just make sure you're on the email list because we have a great metal clay class coming up. They are the open work cuffs that Janelle is going to show us, and it's a fantastic class. It's more fun. You could even add a little mold onto something onto that open cup too. So we like to have fun, show you all really fun stuff. So Ms. Caitlin, thank you so much for coming on and show us how to do this.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yes, it's fun. And I look forward to make sure you check out the email. We do have another freebie coming up, and it is on the concrete. What are we showing how to do? Oh, you're going to love it. It's how to use the concrete, but make it into a ring. That's adorable and fun. So
Cool.
make sure to look for that, and it'll be all over social media. It's really fun. So I know I'll see all of you again soon. Have a great day, and thank you so much, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.